Hey everyone, this is Mike, and I'm here with Isaac,
Yo.
and we're here to talk about a little thing that's been a little bit of a topic that's been going around on the internet very recently due to one Jason Schreier, a very well-known game journalist now. He argues that video games should be cheaper, and he uses like Claire Obscure Expedition 3 as a prime example. Now, again, he's a well-known game journalist, writer, researcher. He did an article from Bloomberg that suggests that a game like Expedition 33, which only costs 50 USD, should be the standard when it comes to gaming pricing in the industry in order for the industry to survive. Games should cost a lot cheaper, basically saying. Like, yeah, obviously when it comes to games being like 70, $80, it's he suggests that it's not a good strategy because like most gamers don't spend that much when it comes to gaming. Now, as everyone knows, like Clear Obscure Expedition 33 only costs $40, and obviously it made a lot of money considering the quality of the game, and obviously and just like the community reception. Obviously, a lot of people love that game. Won so many awards, as everybody knows, and of course, pricing games around like $40, while it's not impossible, I think it is kind of impossible when it comes to the AAA state of things because of just how much bureaucracy and red tape goes into the creation of AAA gaming, to the point where they pretty much have to push these big prices on these games, and it's just kind of like it feels like when it comes to the industry, when it comes to AAA gaming, they're basically stuck with these high prices just because they put themselves in this hole with so much hiring, especially during the pandemic where they just hired. And now they have all these quotas they have to meet. They have all these like these boardrooms and all these investors that need to be satisfied. It's a sad state of affairs, especially when it comes to the AAA gaming industry. Now, obviously when it comes to like indie, when you have like fewer staff to deal with, you just have like, and sometimes you only have like one or two developers that they can afford to have these like very low prices. But when it comes to the AAA industry, it's basically like nearly impossible to do. Now, that's just the long and short of it when it comes to my opinion on it. Now, since this is a topic that Isaac actually brought up, so obviously we should get it. We want to get his opinion on it.
Yeah. Like you said, Schreier says that he wants the gaming industry should have tiers for most gaming, which is it, although I understand where Schreier's coming from. Like, hey, have these certain tiers for all types of different games depending on quality, but and I think he's coming from a good noble place in order to try to hope to keep the gaming industry healthy in terms of these tiers. With that being said, that's what it's really hard to justify what a $20 game is, what a $30 game is, right? Again, it goes down to the idea of what consumers are willing to sit down and pay. We make a great example. You can argue that, Grand Theft Auto, I know we've talked about this a lot, with everything that's being put in, with the bureaucracy, with the marketing, with the team that they have making that game for almost a decade. And knowing that the brand that it's established itself, it's a very popular brand, you can argue that Grand Theft Auto is worthy of maybe even touching the $100 mark. Granted, even now for me, I think that's even way too high for them to even do that. People are arguing about it. People are flirting with it. Personally, I hope that doesn't happen. I think that's ridiculous because then it sets another terrible precedent for all of these other companies to mark Madden up to $100, even though that game's garbage. Like all these other terrible games. So, but again, with the work, the progress, the potential of the game, people are arguing that to be the case. Then, but again, this is just hype. People are just speculating. That being said, like you said, it's really hard to determine the value of what a game should cost because, like you said, when you look at a game like Expedition 33, it only costs $50, and it seemed to gave gamers more for their buck, in terms of story, gameplay, storytelling, design, design aesthetics, the voice acting, all the work that they put into that game, which was greatly deserved. And going down to what you're saying, you look at the independent scene too, where you've seen like a couple of games, like who's to say that a game is not worth $70 if it's like made with pixel and sprites? Again, it comes down to this weird situation of what you're willing to pay for in terms of the game. Like,
Yeah.
Because maybe the game is really good. Maybe that game is actually worth like $50 though, but it's done in 8-bit though, but it's very compelling and it's really well done. Again, I think, like you said, but if someone were to put that kind of price point for an 8-bit game, you probably wouldn't pay for it because you're looking at it visually. You're looking at it, it's like that game's not worth it for what it is. So I think it's really hard to sit there. Even though I think it's coming from a place of decent intentions, though, it's really hard to put a tier point on gaming price points. It's
what is considered quality is going to be different from person to person,
especially because it's an art form. Yeah,
right. Yeah, because that's a perfect example. Considering an art is subjective, so
very subjective. So it's hard to put money on something that's very subjective, on gamers. So, yeah,
obviously, but I think the real issue comes down from the quality of the AAA space when compared to the quality of the indie space. Like in the article, Jason Schreier says like the game Eugenics is a big hit. For those that don't know, Eugenics is a game that's created by the same person that created Super Meat Boy as well as the Binding of Isaac game, not related to this Isaac, but the Binding of Isaac game. And yeah, it's like the game already has like some popularity behind it because a lot of people already know the creator.
Yeah.
And the fact that obviously the game looks very creative, even though it's completely in 2D, and obviously does something like very unique because of the theming. It's basically a tactical cat breeding game, but it also has a lot of like funny adult humor. It also has like a weird controversy surrounding it where they've got a bunch of voices. I got a bunch of like voice actors that are ideologically against each other. But I think that little controversy also helped spark its popularity because the game is actually it's reaching new like all-time highs like day after day. And again, just like the gameplay just speaks for itself that it's a quality game. Just like looking at it and playing at it, and all the sorts of hijinks that you can get out of it. Now compare that to a game like like Concord, a game, or High Guard, games that were absolutely like mediocre, like in terms of its quality gameplay, despite having very like high fidelity visuals and animations and all that stuff. Like the difference is like so vast in terms of just what people consider like a quality game.
And what was that game? What was Concord priced at?
I believe it was also priced at $40, but a lot of people did not want to pay for it even at $40.
Well, fair enough.
And it's just like, I think like, I know people have some issues in the guy like Asmongold, but I think he had like the perfect quote when it comes to the quality of a video game. Like, a good game will succeed
if you give it a little bit of exposure, a bad game will fail even if you show it to the entire world. Because Concord had so much marketing behind it. Highguard also had the Game Awards to push it. And even with all that, people just saw that and said, yeah, no.
I think a good game succeeds when you've I get where he might be coming from with that in terms of exposure, because like you think about okay, let's think about maybe Mario back in the day in NES, right? When video games were starting.
Yeah.
Once people saw Mario as a game, you can argue at the day. I mean, it's not. Video games were not big back in the day, but it got its exposure. It sold units, to the point where everybody knew who Mario was. It grew on to being very mainstay. And I think what I'm trying to say with that is that branding helps. Having, I think where you can charge or market your product, again, going back to the art analogy, art is very subjective. It really just comes back to the company that you trust, or the publisher you trust. Nowadays, it's starting to be less publishers and more of the original game designer that made your said games back in the day.
Well, the publisher was always usually there. Sometimes the publisher and developer were combined together.
Yes, but now as we move on, that's not really the case now.
Usually publishers are separate from the developer.
Yeah, separate from the developer. Well, more if anything, more it's the publisher is really on the front end of everything. The developer basically gets no shine. Back in the day with certain games, but now as we're getting, again, going back to artists, we're starting to know their names now. Like Kojima is for a great example. Cliff Blesky back in the day, the guys that sat down and made these games back in the day. Even Gabe Newell for a very short period of time when he made Half-Life. We start to know his name. We start to know these guys' names for the creative decisions that they made, all to the point great example is Kojima. He's been able to start his own project because we know of his name brand of what he did with the Metal Gear Solid series. So now he can take his experience, he can take that brand and move it on to Death Stranding, and you hope that people will
follow him.
Will follow them, and to that you have the ability to charge what you feel like your game and your product should be able to charge. So I think it plays having big brand names, like artists that that worked on previous projects, to the time where they're ready to kind of step away from the big publisher names to be able to go on and start their own publication. I think that also plays a big factor into where game tiers can start.
Yeah, obviously, brand recognition, creator recognition is obviously going to play a big role into what people are willing to play. I know, again, you brought up Rockstar and GTA 6, how the industry expecting that game to be $100, but I feel like that is one of the only few games that are going to be able to get away with having a $100 price tag, simply due to the pedigree and quality that has been known due to the amazing popularity of GTA 5. And no other game can get away with that.
And also partly was what Rockstar has done for over the last 20, 30 years with, with GTA and even Max Payne or the other projects that they have worked on, that enough that they were able to spin it off with the Red Dead Redemption, franchise. Just only know they only done 1 and 2 though, but it's because of their quality of what they're being able to put in. You know what quality you're going to expect from a Rockstar produced game.
Yeah,
and to a point that you're willing to trust them, to the point that they've earned that right, like you said, potentially to charge $100. We still don't know that yet. The industry's hoping so they can pull their bullshit. But but like you said, Rockstar has earned that right. You can't look at EA's probably not earned that right. You can't say Activision's earned that right with the next Call of Duty game.
Obviously. So it's just, and that's basically the long and short of it. again, back to the article, like you said, it's hard to find concrete data because of all the examples that we just brought up. Because it's just like, it's just too much. Like things are based on just subjectivity and just market values and the current state of the economy right now. Like, yeah, it's just way too much to make concrete data to make tiers on what people can and can't sell. And at the end of the day, it's always going to come down to the customer of what they're willing, how much they're willing to spend when it comes to these games. That means just I do want to preface this by saying, like, yeah, I like Jason Schreier when it comes to his investigative stuff and articles. I don't really like a lot of his opinions when it comes to just game quality in general. Yeah, he obviously mentions Clair Obscur as a good example, but he's also the same guy that, you know, backed like games like Dragon Age the Veilguard, a game that was, I believe, was charged $70 and was not a quality game by the metric of so many other like players out there. Obviously, it didn't sell well enough on PlayStation Plus. They had to give the game away for free and still didn't push copies. Yeah, it's just like.
But going back to what we said again, that's subjective of art. He thought that game was good. He thought that he enjoyed that game that was worth the price point that is point.
To be honest, he didn't thought the game was actually that good. He just wanted the game to succeed for ideological reasons. I won't say why, but it's just like when you have that kind of like opinion like being thrown out, it really hurts when it comes to, like, you know, having concrete data, as he mentions, when certain people with certain like ideals are willing to push certain games out into the forefront to say, hey, this is a quality game, you should play it, you should buy it, and
for this amount of dollars.
And it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help prove your point. Again, the same thing happened with Highguard, how so many like journalists were pushing out their opinions that saying it's a good game if you don't listen to the internet, all the people saying it's a bad game, when again over nearly 100,000 people played it and said like, yeah, this game really isn't good. Like, it's definitely not good enough for me to spend money on the cash shop. And again, it really just hurts. It really just hurts these kinds of, like, you know, these kinds of opinions, like the one Jason is trying to push. So, and that's it. That's all I feel like, me personally.
That's all I got as well.
Yeah. Well, anyway, what do you think about this this whole topic? Do you agree with Jason? Do you disagree? Let us know. If you like what we do here, please rate, comment, and subscribe. I'm Mike with Isaac, and we are saying peace.